Awesome. Awesome. So welcome, and I should be saying Dr. Megan Wilkerson. You worked hard to earn that. STEM leader. I thought you could just start off with just telling us a little bit about who you are and your background to get started.
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. Amazon has been foundational to my success as a small business owner, especially when you're juggling 9 to 5 and then the part-time to 5. So I'm just so overwhelmed by all the support and just the opportunity to connect with you. So thank you. I started, well, I'm from Savannah, Georgia, so I'm from a small town. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My family owns the oldest Black owned and operated business in Savannah. It's a funeral home. And so I
Oh,
grew up around dead bodies, learn how to do hair and makeup on dead bodies. It was my grandma's house. I lived there, used to come home from school, my book bag. And from a young age, I knew I loved life because I was around death every single day. So I learned about compassion and empathy and all these things from just being around families that were processing grief and loss. So I knew I wanted to study life. So when I was in the 3rd grade, I had the best science teacher on the planet, Miss Jane Camacho, and she just made science fun. So like the last day of school, she rented these kiddie pools and taught us about osmosis. Our fingers were pruning in the water. We cooked hot dogs in like shoe boxes covered in aluminum foil. And I was like, science is fun. I love this. So then when I went to college, I had my first I took a genetics class, and that was my first professor that actually looked like me. So then I was like in awe, and she had a PhD as well. And I looked at her and I just saw that maybe she made it feel attainable that I could get one as well. So she was really, really passionate. Dr. Shakespeare at Fort Valley State. And then I took an entomology course, and the professor was like, "You have one of the best bug collections. You should pursue entomology." And I was like, "No, that's disgusting. I don't like bugs." Like I was freaking out collecting them, touching roaches, pinning them. Like I still can't believe I collected insects. That was my first introduction to bugs. And so he said, "If you want to pursue this entomology, I know some people at FAMU. You can get your master's in agricultural sciences." And so I went to FAMU, majored in agricultural sciences with a concentration in entomology. I learned about international agriculture in a study abroad to South Africa. And I was like, wow, international agriculture is a thing. I can get paid to travel and help farmers. So went and got my PhDs from Penn State. And, I'm here now working for the government, still loving bugs.
that's so awesome. So you kind of already alluded to certain things that I was going to ask about. So we'll just get into some additional questions. So first,
Mhm.
your book, A to Z Bug Facts Coloring Book is a unique blend of education and creativity. What motivated you to create this book, and what did you hope readers, particularly children, will take away from it?
So, speaking about entomology, a lot of people associate bugs with ick. And I wanted to replace the ick with like, like I wanted insects to be like more approachable and more relatable because they do so many cool things. And it's such a missed opportunity when fear is like a divider that'll stop you from obtaining so many things and learning so many things. So I wanted to bring nature to like their neighborhoods and make it accessible, make it affordable, and just teach people cool things about insects. That was my goal. I never knew it was. I didn't think it was going to be received like this. I just wanted to just see my idea through because I've spent the majority of my lifetime, and I'm not that old, but I spent the majority of my career working towards somebody else's dream, somebody else's research. So I just challenged myself to see a project to completion, and it was this.
That's amazing. And your book helps kids learn more about insects while enjoying coloring them. And what made you create a specific coloring book? Like why was it a coloring book versus just a regular book that they could read?
Okay, so STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, they added an A for arts, and so I'm a STEAM advocate. So I went to a performing arts high school, and I just love art. It's just one of my natural talents. And when you can combine like learning with something fun and creativity and like innovation and imagination and curiosity, it lets the participant, because I don't want to say for just children, because adults buy it too, but it lets the recipient take part in creation as well. So you don't have to color it the exact same color as the insects are in real life, but it allows them to take part in creativity as well. So that's why I wanted to do a coloring book, so that
That's
so
such
that
a
the
cool
users
idea.
could have a chance to put their spin on it.
That's awesome. Now, during my research, I learned that you're very hyper fixated on bugs. Why do you think that is?
I mean, they do so many cool things. They're pollinators, they're predators, they're producers. They make silk, they make honey, they make dyes, and it's like when you're eating a meal, 3/4 of everything on your plate is pollinated by an insect. And insects, mosquitoes are the world's deadliest animal. So they kill more people than any other animal on the planet. And there's more species of insects than any other organism, more species than fungi, than viruses and bacteria, more species than people. And they just have such a profound impact on the world. And I just want to share that with people because every day I study insects and speak about insects on social media, I'm learning too. So it's like studying entomology allows you to be a forever student and just share really cool things with whoever is willing to listen.
That's awesome. And you could feel your passion for insects. How do you balance your role as a leading figure in the pesticide regulation and an author advocating for environmental education, especially for the younger generation?
I don't. I panic. I freak out. I stress out. Like I cry. It's a learning experience. So I have to remind myself to stay grounded, have the right mentors around me, being able to affirm that this is for me, even if I have self doubt. But organization plays a really huge role, and I have a wonderful executive coach who has been guiding me throughout this process.
That's
And I
awesome.
constantly remind myself of my why, and I spend a lot of time in community and I work in spaces where I'm welcome and where I can exercise my passion. I just went to Anacostia High School in DC like 2 weeks ago, and I was supposed to do one entomology presentation, but I ended up doing another one, and we were eating crickets and talking about bugs. And in the beginning of the presentation, the kids were like, we don't want to hear about that. But then when they started to identify more with insects and understand their importance, it just made the learning experience so much. It enriched the learning experience. So that I just try to stay focused on my why, staying organized, having the right people around me, but putting God first. It's so many things that go into it, but I'm just happy that I'm a part of it.
Well, your passion, you could definitely feel your passion, and I'm sure that has an impact on young kids just so that they could see this as an opportunity for themselves. With the increasing concerns about environmental sustainability and the impact of pesticides on the ecosystems, what measures do you believe are crucial for mitigating these effects by still addressing agricultural needs?
Well, one big part is educating the public, having regulations to enforce whatever change you're trying to enact, and making sure that when you're creating policies, I do a lot of, creating regulations in my branch. I work for the government, but I always do surveys and get the word of, well, get input from the public and combine the people with policy. So that's how I make change in the district, is surveying people, understanding their needs, going out to underrepresented wards, specifically ward 7 and 8 in DC, and then using that information to guide my decisions with policy and making regulations. So putting the people first and having the policies to back it up, but also too, like, showing up in these places. So I go to a lot of outreach events. I speak at a lot of schools. I do a lot of virtual classroom visits. It's like I like having my boots on the ground. I wish I could spend more time in the community, but now that I'm like on social media, it allows the community to come, in my apartment with me. So just being a part of the community and just understanding their issues, and going in as a listener, not so much as an expert.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to individuals who want to contribute positively to the environmental conservation and pesticide management, either through advocacy or personal lifestyle changes?
Thank you. That's a good question. So everybody can live a sustainable life. It doesn't cost any money. It's just changing your habits. So like washing your clothes at night, keeping your thermostat to one temperature. If you're going to applying chemicals, at later on in the evening when pollinators aren't going to be out. Reduce, reuse, recycle. We all heard of the 3 R's. But one of my favorite things to do is shopping locally, supporting local business, supporting Black businesses, eating locally and eating what's in season, not so much of what you have the appetite for. And another big thing that I try to encourage a lot of people to do is knowing where your food comes from. Knowing where your food comes from. So if you buy from a farmer's market or an Amish market, having a relationship with the farmer will help you appreciate, the produce and the products that they produce. But just knowing where your food comes from, shopping locally, buying locally, and participating in the local markets, and just those 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Awesome. How do you see the future of pesticide regulation evolving, considering advancements in technology and growing awareness of environmental issues? It's apparent that we start to see more and more issues around the environment. What does that look like?
And a lot of farmers and people believe that pesticides are a necessary evil. And I know, being the chief of the pesticides branch, I'm supposed to be, yeah, let's use pesticides, but I'm all for using pesticides as a last case scenario. So there's a method called integrated pest management, IPM, and with IPM it's like a pyramid, and at the bottom of the pyramid, and as you work up the pyramid, that's where the pesticides are. So it's a lot of like mechanical control and alternatives to pesticides and cultural control and like preventative measures using good sanitation. So I feel like the future is going to be it should be focused on preparing people to like mitigate their pest issues without using pesticides, and using
Hmm.
pesticides as a last case scenario, but also arming yourself with the right types of information and growing the environment, what's conducive to the environment, growing native varieties, having native pollinators. So I'm really big on not so much the aesthetics, but what does the environment want? You know what I mean? Being a champion for the environment, all the voiceless inhabitants, and finding good quality information. That's why I'm so big on producing content. And if you don't know, look at what was grown in the past. If you don't know today what to grow. So just, just listening to nature, being one with nature, exploring nature, and planting what's native. And as far as like future thinking with pesticides, there's a lot of AI, a lot of precision agriculture. So using technologies to make it less labor intensive, and vertical gardening. So trying to grow more with less resources, and like less land,
Awesome.
less water, less inputs, and like everybody's growing things. So I have a grow light that I, got from Amazon, and plants that I get from Amazon as well. So if you don't have the space for it, like growing indoors, growing vertical, using the resources that you have, I feel like that's going to be the future of agriculture.
Interesting. And then what projects or goals are you currently working on? Like what can we expect from you in the near future, both regulatory role as well as an author?
So as far as the regulatory framework, working closer to the people, getting more surveys in to understand what their needs are. So not so much coming in as an expert and saying this is what we need to do. So I want to spend more times in the community, develop, regulations that will give homeowners and residents more tools in their toolbox. I'm a big advocate for training. So I do a lot of training. I train a lot of government officials, and I train a lot federal and district, and like on my platforms training people. As far as myself, I didn't realize. So my coloring book has just been, it's been received so well, and I get so emotional just thinking about it, because I would have never thought it's an international bestseller. So I've sold copies in Germany and New Zealand and Canada and Australia. So I want to make it more accessible. So I'm translating it into Spanish
That's
right now,
awesome.
and then I want to have different versions. So like highlight all different inhabitants of nature, and like I would love to have my
Like,
YouTube up and running. So I'm creating videos now to make learning more accessible and more fun and make it more diverse. So I would love to be in people's homes talking about all the insects and animals that I'm passionate about, and agriculture. That's my plan, to make nature more accessible, bring nature to your neighborhood.
that's awesome. I look forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
Um, so the other one more question I wanted to ask you. So think about people who are out there that, this is almost like a uniqueness of industry that you're working in that I never have heard anyone talk about, right? What advice or tips do you have for people who might be interested in doing what you're doing? Like what advice would you have for them, how they could get started?
So in order to develop your niche, because I feel like, to me, that's the way to go. A lot of mainstream talents and ideas are oversaturated. So finding out what your passion is, doing a lot of the background work to have a strong foundation of knowledge, and just spending the time to learn yourself and find out what your skills are. Like I feel like everybody has a talent and has something to bring to the table. So spending time with yourself, staying grounded to understand what that is, and constantly getting feedback. I'm always in the reflective process, getting feedback and surveys and constructive criticism from individuals, and using that to make sure I am better at translating my passion to other people. And so I didn't know that insects were going to be my thing. I only found that out because I tried so many things. I threw so many darts at the wall and insects stuck. So it's also too having a fearless disobedience when it comes to doing what you think is right, do what feels right, and do what's well received, and do what needs to be done, not for yourself but for others as well. So just trying everything. That's how I landed on insects. And also doing giving 110%. If I wouldn't have gave my all to the insect collection, I wouldn't have been recommended to go get my master's and my PhDs for free. So showing
That's
up as
amazing.
yourself, being authentic, that part is insane too. Showing up as yourself, being authentic, and then like finding what you're passionate about and just living in your passion every day.
That's awesome. And you said one key thing, you tried different things. It wasn't like you just knew. You tried many different things and you landed on something that your interest was there, your passion was there, your purpose. And then obviously it exploded into all these other things. And you probably are just really right now just barely touching the market. Like I was going to ask you, can you please give us like a guide on what people can do, like homeowners, what can they do to like some of the advice that you have? Like I would read that. And that kind of goes into my last question is like, how can people stay connected to you? Like, where are you posting this content? I know you mentioned you're starting a YouTube channel, but where can they find you?
So yeah, YouTube is that's going to be for the littles. So I love, working with children, educating children, making things that families can enjoy together. So my YouTube is Dr. Megan Steam Machine. And my TikTok is Dr. Megan Wilkerson. My Instagram is Dr. Megan Wilkerson. I have a website that is dedicated to mentoring scholars, and that's drmeganwilkerson.com. And so if you had a scholar in high school or college, they can set up a session, a mentoring session, and they'll leave with an action plan, with determination, with inspiration. I do virtual classroom visits. I have a lot of those booked for events. I'm
Awesome.
speaking at universities. I spoke at Penn State. I just spoke at Yale. So yeah, just shoot me an email, Dr. Megan at drmeganwilkerson.com, or on the socials. I'm pretty responsive.
That's awesome. We will be following you and
Yeah.
seeing what else you come out with. And I'm sure you're going to be inspiring. To me, you're a trailblazer, right? Someone who has found a niche that I think that if more Black women can see themselves through you, just like you mentioned, and that kind of now makes sense, your whole life story. You mentioned the teachers that impacted you. That made a tremendous difference, I'm sure, in you getting to where you are today. So thank you so much for inspiring our Ben Women members. And we are definitely going to have to reach out to you to come back and talk more with our members in the future.
Especially because I saw that the soiree is next week. I wanted an invitation. I want them trying to show up. I'm
I
trying to
know. And
party.
and that was like the soiree is for Amazonians only, I learned
Oh.
that we're not approved yet, but we're also working on something else. We're working on a conference. We did a Brilliance conference, but this one we want to do in person. So
Mm-hmm.
like I think you would be a really good potential speaker for that because I don't think many women have ever thought, most of the time we see ourselves in specific roles and we're like, oh, that person is doing that. But like, I think there's an opportunity for Black women right now to be offered. There's so many Black women leading and trailblazing through areas that they would have never thought about doing in their
Yeah,
career.
and it's like society will put you in a box, and sometimes you have to be a box
Yes.
cutter. You just got to rip it open, bust it out, and just show them that we're more. I saw this lady on TikTok selling keychains made out of pubic hair. So no idea is like, you know what I'm saying? Like no idea. The first no is the no you tell yourself. Like the market is there, so it's like just do it, like Nike. So just I just and there's a community that's willing to support you, that's going to champion you, and that's going to show up for you. But you have to show up for yourself first. So that's my biggest thing: showing up for yourself as yourself first, and the rest will fall into place.
Absolutely. So it was so nice connecting with you. And I really do appreciate your time. And I think you're going to be able to inspire um, our Ben Women members. And we will definitely be talking to you about our Brilliance conference this year because I think this is something nobody would have ever even conceptualized as an opportunity for them to take their career as well.